Hi there, let's take a look at Stellar XLM. We'll cover the weekly Wyckoff structure, check out the short-term trend, so we can assess the risk of next price move. From a Wyckoff perspective, XLM is currently in the testing stage of the accumulation cycle. This is where the whales try to shake out as much paper hands as possible before the next distribution cycle comes back. The next stage in the cycle we're waiting to show up is the sign of strength, meaning there will be patterns such as higher than average volume, price, reclimbing to where the automatic rarely tested, because that stage typically set the trading range top for the accumulation cycle. And in the case for Stellar, this is around 0.26 to 0.76, or at one point at that stage, it even surpassed the purple key level of 29 cents 10. So that's something we are looking forward to in the chart of Stellar. Looking at the weekly volume, it has been declining for 7 consecutive weeks after the spike or the increased volatility during late May all the way to end of June. And it has declined to the low range since the end of 2025. All right. Remember, these are education content only, not financial advice. And the most important weekly support level is this light blue key level of 13 cents 80. The key resistance remains the blue key level of 15 cents 70 after last week's candle dropped slightly below this blue line. And you can see here, the bulls try to push back to above the line, but the bears hammer that, making the price coming back down. But the volume says it. There's no big commitment from either side, when the volume comes back to this kind of level. So let's go to the detail, the daily chart. We talk about this, that Stellar started a falling channel since July 22nd. And on the date, we put a tag around the 16th, where we call that a 2C's decision point. Because whenever there's such a wedge formed by the channel ceiling, in this case for a falling channel, or a channel support in the case of rising channel, crosses these kind of levels, may it be key levels like these solid lines or the short-term levels, we get such a point where the bulls and bears, the trade will show us which side the market is actually going. In this case, it briefly broke outside of the downtrend, traveling a bit sideways. But today, it is coming back down to test the ceiling of the channel. So whether or not it is really going to develop into a sideways trend, or is it going to just develop into a new downtrend, the next few days will tell us the answer, because there are important data coming out, FOMC minutes coming out. So the market is probably speculating or waiting to see next waves of move. Okay? Now, given this backdrop, if we zoom out after this has gone outside of the channel, remember there was this wedge, this bigger wedge over here. You see this yellow dashed line, right? This is actually gapping the price. So that's why the volatility. If I switch on this indicator, you can see this is called a Bollinger Band corner squeeze. So when the price trade towards the edge of this wedge, it's basically started a squeeze. And usually what happens after a squeeze is higher volatility compared to the prior relatively sideways or silent period. And the indicator doesn't tell us which side the market will go. It's just telling us higher volatility is on the way. Okay, you can see these kind of situations. Sometimes it can last for very long before the actual volatility comes in. Okay? Sometimes it happens sooner. And we can see that happened, the squeeze happened, and these, the purple lines, the bands, are actually still very close to the blue bands. So it may happen in a way that this is still developing into a squeeze, just that it is trending downwards as of this moment. If we want to look at the trend lines, you can clearly see that the 20 days crosses the 50 sometime in mid-July, and then eventually the 100. So it's definitely not in a good shape in terms of people studying trend lines, okay? 20, 50, 100, 200. All right. So if it stays below the 20, that's continuation of being suppressed. But who knows, right? Like what had happened in May this year. All of a sudden, that volume spike brought everything back to above the 200, just to come back down again. Right, so that's why sometimes I don't rely on the individual or single indication too much. Even these lines, they give us certain indication because some people rely on those indicators to trade. So it's expected that, okay, the price is coming to challenge the trend lines. There is a higher chance that some people are going to sell. But it's not definite, right? It also depends on other factors outside of technical analysis. So back to this trend over here. If it continues to go this way towards the south, this is the original trend that we are tracking. But what if it is actually a broader or wider trend? Let's copy this channel. If what started at the beginning of July, around the 4th and 5th, when the price first dropped, was the actual boundary from the top to this bottom. That's the price range of the channel. And then that's where it has been troubling. I'm lining up this low and then this low. We definitely have a lower lows situation as of this moment. Also, remember we always have a center line, right? And if you're new to this, the center line doesn't have to cut the channel box in half. It just have to touch the most candlesticks head or tails or the tip of the wings within that channel. So this is what the price has been doing. If we use this thicker time frame as a measure, it is trading along the weaker half of the channel. Okay, so that gives us another indication over here. So if it travels along the line and comes to the support line of the channel and bounces back up to challenge the blue T level or the center line, right? They somehow process here near the end of the month. Then that proves this channel do exist, because a lot of times these kind of trends, you can, if you are too subjective, like if we just focus on this shorter term, narrower band and lose sight of this bigger one, then you will have a hard time wondering why this is going out and where it is heading. So try to zoom out the chart, especially when you're in a daily chart, because it's typically when you are in a more frequent time window, it becomes more noisy. day in, day out those trades, and you need to zoom out to take a look whether you have missed something. All right. Scalping is a totally different world. Okay. It's even more noisier. So that's where it is. Let me know whether you think this downtrend is going to continue all the way into the fourth quarter, or maybe at least September. Or do you think the bulls will fight back when the FOMC meeting minutes finally comes out tomorrow, and they will reclaim to above the blue key level of 15 cents 70, and maybe head to challenge the purple key level of 17 cents 20. Remember, you can access this video earlier being a channel member, so join the other channel members now. See you in the next one. Thank you.